Okay, so let's do this.
Yes, let's do this.
It's
We've
been,
been planning this for a while, right?
yeah, it's been months and months of planning, several ideation sessions, and here we are. So I think without further ado, I'll just go ahead and talk why we are actually here. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Technically Not Speaking. My name is Chaitanya Bhati, and I am your slightly AI obsessed co host.
And my name is Prachi Jain, your technically obsessed co host. And we are two brown women. We are working in tech. We are very much part of this AI revolution while we are also navigating it at the same time. And that's why we are here to get into the archives, get into literally everything around AI, and get to you what we think makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. I think the whole idea of doing this was we have been like seeing a lot of content out there with respect to what is being shared on the lines of which AI tools are really famous, which I think features are picking up. How can you edit your picture? How can you go ahead and make some Ghibli images? Is it right? Ghibli? What is it called?
I don't know, but I think it's I like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think the whole point was, yeah, for us to actually go back to actually dig more on the foundation of where it started and how it started. And have you mentioned that
Yeah.
we, in your introduction, technically obsessed, but not technically obsessed? The whole idea of technically not speaking comes from the whole angle that both of us don't come from an engineering background. We are not engineers or data scientists or coders. We have business degrees. Information systems also comes under business degree. But yeah, I think you've been working in the industry for a very long time now, Prachi. You've been a product marketing lead and product marketing manager, working in the startup space, the whole ecosystem where you're actually going and selling AI products, right?
Yes, yes, it's selling, it's strategy, how do you go to market? And I am also a living proof that you don't need to have an engineering degree to be part of tech or to be able to even work on these products or services. You just need to have aptitude, you need to have genuine curiosity and love for what you do. And I know you've been on the product management side of it. You've been building products as well. I know you geek out a lot. And we both tend to discuss so much about,
Yeah.
hey, what's happening, what's this, what's that. And to your point, I think it's no more a buzzword, right? It's more about how we are using it, how I think all of these tools have become a part of our life. So we already had personalization, recommendations, all of these things for a while now, but then actually having Claude or GPT or Gemini or Perplexity, using it day to day, even for writing or asking questions. Like I've asked Perplexity about traffic.
Traffic.
Yeah, and we've seen like Tesla also did like in their previous launch, they had the Optimus bot and then they had the version of Cybertruck and how things are just going to get better and better. So I feel initially it was just like business use cases, and I think while both of us were working, we've seen
Yeah.
how enterprises and companies they incorporate it as part of whatever use cases they have, but I don't think it's that anymore. It's become very mainstream.
Yeah, it's yeah, part of your day-to-day life, right? The adoption is actually getting so close that people guilty as charged. I use chat gpt sometimes to get like Instagram captions for my pictures I'm uploading on Instagram. Like, yeah, why not? Why would I like take like 5-10 minutes to think about what do I want to put? I just ask chat gpt, right? I think that's not the whole point, like why we're here, right? We do not want to talk about all of these tools right now. We actually want to go back in time. As we all know, at least most of us know, that Alan Turing is considered to be the modern day founder of AI. But it's not that. It's not 1950, right? 1950 is very recent. It's still very recent. Since we were so curious, we decided that let's dig in a lot more to understand where did it actually come from? What is the whole history behind AI? And I think that's why we started our whole reading and then sharing it with each other, and the whole idea of why not start this podcast, a little more non-conventional way to talk about tech and AI.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to your point, we are doing a sort of timelining. So, like you said, not just Alan Turing, right? We'll go way beyond that. So we'll do a little bit of time stamps where we start from ancient civilizations or mythologies, the stories that we've heard, and how that can sort of make sense now. How can we draw parallels from there to here? Because I feel to get to present and future, you have to have a very good understanding of past. And you're
Always.
right, we are not, there are so many creators out there. Anyways, there are a lot of data scientists, coders. We both have been following a lot of that content, seeing even startup founders talk about the latest coding tool or talking about AI agents, workflows, everything, right? Or how it can help you with video editing. And so there are a lot of people talking about tools, techniques, basic terms, what
Yeah.
ML, AI, everything means. And that's great. I think it's great to have more people coming and educating like people who are not part of tech industry, because like we've been in tech, we've seen everything transform from going from cloud computing to generative AI right now. But I
Yes.
think for anyone who's not part of tech, and tech touches everyone's life, every industry, every individual, it's very important. Until you don't understand history, you can't make sense of present and probably think of future. So that's why we're here with our viewers, and we want to do our own version of this timeline thing
Yeah.
and like, talk about it in different time periods.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said, Prachi. And I think that's why we'll go way back in time, way, way back in time. And I think a good starting point will be for me to definitely mention about this research paper that I was talking about. Very interesting read. And it is published on ResearchGate. I think it was written in somewhere around 2021, like about 4 years ago. And this paper actually talks about the roots and the similarities that we have with modern day tech versus what was there in ancient times. And it briefly touches Greek mythology, but a lot is covered on ancient India.
Yeah,
And what I found very interesting was growing up, we've actually watched a lot of these mythical shows, like mythology based shows.
yeah,
Obviously, the most popular ones are Ramayana, Mahabharata. We've heard of Vedas, Upanishads. Like all of these things are very known terminologies, at least to Indians, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I think the whole point in that research paper was how we missed on those details. Like, for example, if I may, uh,
Yeah.
when you go back to Ramayana, what's it, 8,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, like the timestamp, right?
More than that, I think. So Ramayana in Treta Yug, if I'm not wrong. So
Yeah,
you know how yugas are, right? So if you look at the Hindu Vedic system, or the way we say there was Satyug, there was Treta, Dwapar, and Kalyug. And in all, it's like 4 million, close to 4.3 or something million years, and then it's
yeah.
divided. So yeah, it's like even like beyond that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. No, very rightly said. So again, I do not want to quote dates without having information. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, thousands of years ago about Ramayana, right? Now we all know this whole story where Ravan, who's considered to be the evil guy, abducted Sita. But the whole process, right? He came in this very interesting mechanical device which is called Pushpak Viman. Uh,
Mhm.
what we have seen in like movies and like series, we see there's this some sort of a throne he's sitting on, and that thing is flying, and it's come and he's picked up like Sita and he's taken her and gone. He flew from like India to Sri Lanka. And when you practically think about it, what was Pushpak Viman actually, right?
Yeah,
Back then, even so many like thousands of years ago, they were actually automating. They were in the whole industry of automation and actually building out devices which are so like similar to in the modern day technology that we have.
absolutely. Yeah. I think we also have some sort of like graphical representation. I think that'll be good to draw panels, right?
Yeah, so let me see if I can add this. Oh no, wait, not this. This one. Yes.
Yeah.
So now this is just a reference image. These are all based on interpretations, right? Like when you look at Pushpak Viman, you see this whole chariot which is on wheels and which is flying in air. It has propellers. It was actually an automatic navigation system was actually built in that. And
Mhm.
through that research paper, they've actually drawn parallels through how there were command controls. very similar to today's airplanes that we have.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I was reading this paper, and I knew that a lot of it was, reference back to again assumptions being made and all of these scripts and texts that have been found, and there's no surety if it is there for real. But if there are so many links, why should we ignore them? And
Yeah.
humanity has been actually planning about going back in day and using artificial intelligence for automating so many tasks. So why
Yeah.
is it that right now, when AI is taking over, everyone's going into this panic mode that AI is taking our jobs, AI is going to ruin everything, we won't have stuff to do? Yeah, there's a shift, there's a change. But if we
Absolutely.
don't understand like why it happened,
Yeah.
how it happened, and it's been there since like centuries, thousands of years ago, then it's only time we start accepting.
I think we are all fed this that we'll be in some sort of doomsday Terminator like situation where the
Yeah,
bots will take over, and then we've seen all the movies, all the sci-fi. But I don't think, because to your point, you've
yeah,
read this, we've spoken about this, we've both read a lot of history and other things. These things have existed. Maybe we don't have like actual traces, like we have stories that tell us, and none of us get scared listening to stories because they are fun. They're like, oh, it's sci-fi. It's like something that's just in our fantasy.
yeah.
But it's not fantasy. I think these things were there in different, like we said, different timestamps or different yugas. It's just that in Kali Yuga, like all what we know is what we know, correct?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, that is what it is. And I think the whole idea was things were lost in translation. Like a lot of it was lost, and we've moved, civilization has moved on. But when we find like some sort of hints here and there, I think that's where these research papers come in place. Right? There are people who are actually out there doing this work, and like they're literally screaming, "Listen, trust us. This is real. It is not something that has come out of. There's no magic in place." But yeah, very interesting read. And I think towards the end of this podcast, I will share the link as well so that our viewers can listen to this. But there was another story as well, which I want to talk about,
Yeah.
which was there on this paper. Again, very relatable to people who are listening, especially the ones who know about Indian mythology, which was in Mahabharata. Right now, I spoke about Ramayana. We came to the next view, which is like Mahabharata.
Yeah.
There are so many instances in Mahabharata actually, but one very interesting one which I came across
Mhm.
was Divya Drishti.
Yeah, got it.
You know what that is, right?
Yes, the broadcasting of whatever was happening on the battlefield of Kurukshetra to
Yeah.
Dhritarashtra. Correct.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, Krishna, who was Lord Krishna, who was there, he actually wanted the father of the Kauravas, those 100 brothers. He wanted him to understand what was happening on the battlefield. But as we all know, all the ones who don't know, Dhritarashtra is actually blind.
Yeah.
So Dhritarashtra's brother Sanjay was, or his caretaker, I think. Krishna gave him this superpower, this ultimate superpower, which is called Divya Drishti. Basically, by sitting inside the palace, like hundreds of miles away from the battlefield, which was Kurukshetra, Sanjay was able to actually tell Dhritarashtra everything that was happening on the battlefield. Basically, he was able to see on the
Projected on his screen, right? Yeah. Makes sense.
when we look at it, because without even trying to understand what could have been the reason, we are focused more on the story, right? Story side of things, and watching Mahabharata and Ramayana. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I never grew up questioning, but how is this possible? Like, how is he able to like see without a television set, without a device,
Yeah.
without anything being in place? I guess that is the part where things are lost in translation,
Because
where
I think we consider them as like superhumans or like superheroes, right? Who possess these
powers.
superpowers, right?
Yeah.
Anybody like Spider-Man, Flash, like we talk about in the Marvel world or the DC world. Similarly, I think Mahabharata is an epic story, better than any Marvel movie. But to your point, how is it happening? Like, how is it like not natural? And so you're right. We've never questioned it. We've always just accepted that this is something out of what a plain human can do. But no, it's like human beings doing it.
Exactly, because in today's day and age, we're like, yeah, I live here. I am talking to my parents every single day. We are doing video call, we're doing WhatsApp calls because it's so normal. And but this back then, computer vision and artificial intelligence, which were actually inculcated in so many aspects of like mythology, have been lost. And I feel like it's good to like go in touch base, just start pondering, asking questions around, okay, why this, why that? Can I get more information on this? And then start to understand that humans have actually been like working on automation and AI and everything related to technology for a long time. But yeah, these are like my 2 cents from that paper.
Much before we even existed. We are just such a tiny, minuscule part of this entire timeline.
Yeah,
So I think it's interesting, and because you spoke about ancient India, right? It's not just, I think, India or the subcontinent or whatever was happening in Asia. I think even in Europe, and everyone's just fascinated with the Greeks and the Romans, all the Greek gods and Roman gods. And
I for all other reasons, but yeah,
no, but like I said, we have our own interpretation of yugas and timelines and different stories taking part in different yugas. And like to your point, how we point out automation, how we point out tech, how we can point out some foundations of AI. Similarly, I think Greeks also had the same thing, the Golden Age, the Iron Age, the Copper and the Bronze Age. And then they had different gods again. They were human beings, so
yeah.
as to speak, we call them gods, but they were just like gods who did different things. And there are two or three tales. I think we spoke about this briefly before as well. But then I like two or three characters the most. One is Prometheus, who essentially stole the fire from gods to give it to humanity. Then we talk about Hephaestus or Hephaestus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But then he was the god of craftsmanship and metalworking. And the interesting thing is that Hephaestus, if I may say so, he was ridiculed a lot. He was not a very good looking god. So
Oh,
when
yeah.
all the
Imagine a Greek god who's not good looking. Is that even possible? First of all,
is possible. I think the standards were very different. The beauty standards were so different back then.
yeah.
But then he was ridiculed by other Olympians. And then he just went into his workshop and he built out these, I would say, iron or golden, I think, handmaidens. So when you think of handmaidens, and I can just show you here,
Yeah, you have some reference, right?
I do. So look at it. Like he's building out these handmaidens who are basically mechanical. They're intelligent mechanical women. So they can think, they can speak, they can
Yeah,
move on their own accord. Now, I draw this parallel to we are building bots, right? Not just
yeah.
Tesla doing Optimus, but so many companies and startups. And so think of it like even back then, they are creating these handmaidens, which is an equivalent of a bot, which I feel is interesting. It's not just like supernatural beings doing things, but that's
No,
what I feel. So this was
absolutely.
interesting. Yeah, you had something to say.
No, I'm like, absolutely. I think this was the whole point, right? Which we were talking about, where they've just basically some sort of programming has been fed in them, and they will just act according to what Hephaestus, is it Hephaestus? Hephaestus, whatever his name is.
Sisters, yes.
Yeah, whatever he's programmed in them, they will just act according to that, right? Do the job.
So they were programmed also, but they could still interpret from surroundings. So they can act on their own accord. So whenever what I think Hephaestus did was because he's compensated. So whenever he would go to Mount Olympus and then meet other gods, he would take these handmaidens
Show
to
off.
make up for what he lacked physically. I
Mm.
think this is a great tale of both, I think, it could be a case study in like psychology, but also science for that matter, because invention did come out of that core need of acceptance, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that is one like really cool story. The other one was of Talos. So he was again built by Hephaestus and he was gifted to King Minos to
Mm.
protect the island of Crete. So think of it like if there is any invader, any pirates, any ships coming, and you can compare this to like modern day military arms or like drones and other things we have. So think of it like we'll have bots even working as part of the Air Force, armed forces.
Yeah,
So
we have drone technology as well coming in, right? Like everything is,
drones, yeah, I think drones have been used for quite some time now, at least in defense
yeah,
area. But it's so interesting. Like you can see it on the screen, just drawing palace. Like it's a guarding soldier made of bronze.
gladiator,
Yeah,
gladiator.
yeah. So, like you mentioned, we spoke about Ramayana, we spoke about Mahabharata, but then there are so many different tales we've heard across different civilizations and from mythology,
Yeah,
which speaks to that even, and however you want to categorize the different ages, right? Through that, human beings have been obsessed. They want to build intelligent beings, intelligent creatures. So I don't think it's anything new. We're just a lot more scared.
yeah.
I'll also uh, put one more thing, and
But
I know,
before you do that, I know. Before you do that, there's one thing I want to like share on that before I lose my thought, right?
yeah, yeah,
You spoke about like how Hephaestus, because he felt like he was differently abled and he wasn't considered, he wasn't given that status within the society, and he wanted to build something which will actually help him and also prove his worth, which is
yeah,
what like humans are doing now, right? Like we all, like all of these big tech companies, and they all want to be at the top. And somewhere you're finding like use cases and needs about, oh, we have to like actually solve for this problem.
yeah.
The other part is debatable where there is a problem or not still, because we want to be at that point where everyone's looking at us and they're like, yeah, okay, we have achieved this and we've gotten here and everyone's looking up on us.
I think it's race to. I think whenever we want to talk about tech or any innovation, forget tech, any innovation, I think it's a very good case study that operates on the macro and
Hmm.
micro level. So,
Yes.
like psychology, sociology,
Yes.
mythology, and then you put science into it. So, need for validation, I think, is very core, whether it's a
Yeah.
business, whether it's a human being, to your point. And I think it has become more of a race to the top. We live
Always.
in a very capitalistic economy.
Yeah.
So, race to the top and race to make those millions and race to innovate and be that exclusivity, being
Yeah.
part of that exclusive club, having access or giving access. So I
Yeah.
think we can do an entire podcast where we can talk about sociology, psychology, and how that leads to innovation and how we are.
Could be a subtopic somewhere, but yeah, I do not want to digress too much from what you were saying. It was just a thought that came to my mind, and I was like, yeah, I need to like put this forward. But yes, go on. You had one more thing to you wanted.
And we've all heard about Aristotle, right? So
Yeah,
it was 340 BCE, if I'm not wrong, I think around that time. And I know everyone calls him a philosopher,
I
correct?
was going to say that you're getting that. Now you just spoke about like sociology and everything, and now you want to bring philosophy. But
But
yeah,
I think he had, yeah, so he had two parts to his, I would say, foundational or core logics that he built, and one was more philosophical, one was more technological. I would say I don't think anyone considers him like maybe someone who laid down foundation for AI and tech, but I do think so because he built out the syllogistic logic: A
Hmm.
equal to B equal to C, so equal to C. So reason, how would you do that? And then also categories. So if you want to build out information trees, you want to build out knowledge graphs. So I think he gave the world this. Obviously, I don't think anyone of us like regards him with that. He spoke about material causes and causational theories, etc. Because that's very important in prediction and algorithms.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
So I would say that Aristotle needs a little bit of mention when we talk about Greeks and we go back into it, although it was much after the Greek gods. But I
yeah.
feel that he could still be called as the maybe the founding father of the modern day
Logic.
technology. Yeah, or logic. So as to like, how would you get that logic? Correct.
Yeah,
And very cool thing he said, if all men are mortal and Socrates is a man, then Socrates is mortal. Which goes against the logical reasoning side of it,
yeah.
but it still builds a logical system or an equivalent foundation.
Very
So,
interesting.
yeah, those were the things I wanted to discuss on like the Greek side of the folklore and stories that we've heard.
No, very interesting. And again, it's just every time we even talk about this, or every time I go back to reading any research papers about not just research, but it could be an article, or there are like a lot of podcasts out there, and people have been talking about this somewhere here and there, right? And I start wondering that like how we are thinking on this line. Are there like more people going in this direction where they're actually giving deeper thought to understand how everything came into being? Let's leave technology aside for a minute, like just everything, like the whole existence of us. And I think we can just get lost in a very big rabbit hole, but it's always like good to like just pick up on what exactly we need from that, and then see how we go forward from there, right? So the really touching upon the essential parts of our past and see how it is helping us. And that's why this whole podcast over here, to actually help our viewers understand that technology, artificial intelligence, automation is not a new phenomenon. It's been going on like for thousands of years. And we are here to actually, I would not say educate you, but just share with you. We're also learning and getting used to a lot in this whole new space. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is it for this episode.
Yes, and to your point, it's a conversation. We're also digging, we're also learning. The more we can talk about past, the better we can connect it to present and future. And this is just one aspect, right? We've not even touched upon other stories, other civilizations. And our goal is to, in every episode, have a conversation. To your point, we're not educating, but having a conversation and probing people to really go back into the archives and learn and study and not get very worried about what's going to happen. There are pros and cons. I'm not saying that, oh, don't be careful or don't take things with a pinch of salt. But I know this one we focused on ancient India, focused on ancient Greece. In the coming ones, we get into 1800s. We talk about Ada Lovelace and Charles Babbage until we get to the era of Alan Turing. And our goal is to keep coming up with like interesting stories, probe
Yeah.
us. We are probing ourselves also, and we'll probe our audiences also. So I
Yeah.
think it's going to be a really cool, wild ride for which our viewers will have to buckle up.
Yes.
And yeah, this is it for first episode. But we are looking forward to coming out with a lot more stories and just having a conversation going on. And people can tell us what they liked, what they didn't like, what they want to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're open to feedback. This is a new space. We are trying it for the first time, and we are equally excited and nervous. I think we are, right?
Yes,
It's
we
very to say we're nervous. But yeah, if you liked our content, if you think this is something that you're interested in, please let us know. Hit that. Oh, this is right. Oh, sorry. This is
are.
yeah. Like, subscribe, all of those things. But most importantly, please let us know what you think about this, and we will be coming back with episode 2.
Yes, and we'll be doing it every 2 weeks. We'll try to come up with, like we said, we're doing first a few episodes at timelining and going back into it. So we'll be doing that. Yes, share, subscribe, tell us what you like, what you don't like. And we are your hosts. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube. We'll put the links below. And
Yes.
that's it for first episodes. From first episode, my bad. I
Yes.
am your co-host, Prachi.
And I'm your co host, Chaitanya, and we are signing off. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you, everyone.